All right. I think I am, I don't even know what I am this week. The facilitator?
I think so.
I think so. Okay, it's June 12th. 23. Who's the note taker this week?
Yeah.
You?
Mhm.
Caitlin? Um, right. So first part is to share with your group how you are, as in areas of tier two intervention, if you still feel you need understanding or where you're at. Caitlin already has it typed up. Do you want to go in that order? Alexis, you start.
I feel like I have a pretty good idea and I feel comfortable. I feel like if I have necessarily like an area of worrisome, for me, it's always how to connect tier two back to main class, just because I don't want those tier two students to fall behind in a way to where they feel that they're being separated or anything, but to where they're still getting the intervention that they need. So I feel
Mhm.
like that's kind of like my area of worrisome as a teacher. And you can sum that up, Kate. You don't have to write all of that down.
I said has a good idea, but struggles a little connecting tier two learning back to main class. I like that. Is that kind of what you
Yeah.
were saying?
Yeah.
For me, I would say that I'm also getting like a good hang of it and kind of getting more comfortable with like understanding what it is and like um my biggest concern too would be just having students not falling behind, but also kind of if it's in like a small group, how to incorporate it so like that it's beneficial for each student just because you know how like each student kind of does learn differently. So like being able to kind of make sure that every student's getting a benefit from that intervention and stuff.
I'm also feeling pretty good on it. I think if I did have a worry, it would probably be like, I know this is pretty basic, but like entertaining the rest of the class. And I feel like sometimes that could be like the easy part, just like making them read or something like that. But I feel like I think about it too hard. Like, what should the rest of the class be doing? Because I don't want it just to be like a stupid coloring worksheet or like something they're not like really benefiting from. I want them to benefit too while I'm trying to help others catch up.
I would say it's kind of similar to what you guys were saying, making sure the rest of the class is like good, but also like not having the other like the small group of students miss out on something, like
Mm-hmm.
not learning something.
I like how though we are I don't know, other classes I feel like they just like go over a topic and then like graze over it. Where she like really like this is our fourth week, I think, doing a lesson or practicing a lesson, maybe week three. And because I looked ahead and I was like, what were we gonna do today? And so like we're practicing another lesson of how to go over it again. And when I was making my um case study, it was like easy because I felt like it was easy because I had multiple examples to look back on.
Mhm.
Right. I feel like that's what I worry about as a teacher because like we're given materials and usually most schools give you like activity books as far as like main class and like kind of that structure as far as what to do within the classroom with full class. But when it comes to these small groups and like tier two, tier three, it's like you're kind of on your own as far as, your interventions and stuff. So it's kind of nice to have these case studies, like you said, to gain your knowledge as far as like how to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
I like too that she includes like this is what the rest of the class is doing, and she's like, you can't just have them silently read. Like they still need to be doing something.
Right. Okay, part 2, discussion around reading. So this week we read chapter 2. Answer the questions below and give a short summary. So the first one is give a summary statement of how we develop skills in area of phonological and phonemic awareness in intervention groups. On page 26. So that was like, how do these skills develop? Oh, I think this is the one where it talked about like first they go through like large chunks of sounds and then they identify the initial sound and then after that they work on blending and then they go to segmenting.
Mm-hmm. I think they talked about like patterns and sight words too.
Mm-hmm.
What I appreciated was like I think it was overall throughout this, but like the imagery and like the connections that you can give your students and like they can take home, but also like within your classroom. So like the labels you can put throughout the classroom, and then you can have like certain words the students have to break out throughout the day. Like they have to find, or like especially if you're working on like endings or rhyming words, they have to find like 5 examples within the classroom or something like that. I think it's really helpful. That way students can relate like, okay, this is the sound I'm working on. This is objects I know that have that sound. And then, it gives them like meaning correlation and stuff too.
Yeah.
So I didn't really write a summary statement. I kind of just wrote down like,
That's okay. She said bulleted form is fine too.
okay, I think I missed a few. Is that
No, I think that looks good. Initial sounds fine. Yeah, I think that's good. Give a summary statement of how we develop skills in the area of word recognition in intervention groups, page 26 through 27. I think this is understanding that they had to understand the alphabetic principle and like know how the sounds are blended together and like how each sound or how to represent each sound by like spelling it out.
Yeah, I do remember that. I
And
also remember them talking about like just understanding like the group you're working with comes from different backgrounds. So like if they're taking different time or if they understand stuff a different way, I feel like that's important. Just knowing that people come from different backgrounds of knowledge, obviously.
mhm.
Remember them talking about letter maps or like mapping letters and stuff like that, like letter sounds.
It talks about like the concept of print and then like how like depending on where you're from, like where like the direction you read in and stuff is like different and like talks about yeah, just having that understanding that everyone obviously learns differently depending on the language that they speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think tying onto that, I think once they understood the alphabetical principle and then the concepts of print, then they could learn how to like decode everything. I always like how they give examples too, because sometimes I'm not really good at understanding it, and then they give out like an example, especially in this article. I felt like it did really good. Because even when they were talking about the mapping letter sounds, and then they gave the example of Maria learning the alphabetical principle about the short vowel words, then it was just easier to understand, I guess. The next question is, often we need supplemental materials beyond our standard curriculum to meet the needs of our students in our intervention groups. Pick at least one of the examples of resources on page 28 and explain how you see it being supportive. One that I could think about is the UFLI Virtual Teaching Resource Hub, and that was where it provided webinars and resources to assist educators in teaching foundational reading skills using technology. And I feel like that could be supportive just because, I don't know, not all teachers are fresh out of college or know how to use technology. So that could be tricky for some teachers and people. I mean, just fresh out of college, I'm sure after we graduate 2 years down the road, there's going to be a new technology or better way to use like the virtual blending boards, for example. I never would have thought about that.
One I looked at was providing resources based on evidence-based practices, the ones particularly discussing those of disability. I know we've had like it depends on obviously if you're a special education major or not. I know I don't know if you guys have taken EDS 318 yet, I think is the course, but that is kind of a disabilities focused course. But I feel like just as a teacher, it's important to obviously know how to navigate those students because yes, they have their educational team, but it's not always that they're going to be with them, and we still need to look at them as students and as, they aren't struggling with those disabilities and how to navigate to their best of their successes, I guess. And it's kind of difficult because you're already trying to manage a full class, your tier 2, your tier 3, as well as just, looking as your students as humans. So, kind of getting a background of disabilities and stuff like that is helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. We can go on to the next question. Give and describe one example of research found on intervention for phonemic awareness and basic word recognition skills on page 30 and 31. I guess I don't know what this is asking for. If it's like asking for like monitoring students' progress, is like that was one. I don't know if that was one of them. Because on page 31, it was talking about how those two teachers monitored progress to adapt their interventions to make sure that all the skills were met and like the reading performances were increasing. So I don't know if that's what it's talking about or.
I don't know. Yeah, because I don't know. Because near the end of page 31, it says these effects are considered small to moderate, indicating that students who received a type of intervention outperformed students who did not. So is it indicating that, like, intervention, it depends on who is getting intervention and what type. Therefore, is it
Right.
equitable? Is it? I think it's more talking about like if students receive intervention, are they getting meaning out of it versus like are they physically growing from it, or is it more of like a boost that they actually need, I guess?
I feel
Yeah.
like that would be the research found. So I guess just, is there a name of like that research? Did they call it something or did they just say the research?
I think
Just the research.
yeah.
Um, the research found, can you repeat what you had said, Mackenzie, about it?
Me or Alexis? I was the one talking about how they were monitoring students' progresses to make sure that the intervention was like adapting to their individual needs and to ensure that like their reading performances are increasing.
Okay. And what were you saying, Alexis? I'm sorry.
I said that the interventions were considered small to moderate, indicating that students who received them outperformed students who did not.
Okay.
It says overall the research was effective as it allowed teachers to make modifications in response to their students' needs, while others allowed minimal modifications. It talked about how it was all mainly standardized interventions, and like that's how they got their response from the assessment versus like I know how we've talked in the past about how you can assess your students like orally or just like how when they're working on stuff like you can assess them that way. This was strictly like via like standardized informal type of assessments, I guess, during the interjections, I guess. And that's where they got their research. I don't know, I feel very mixed about this article. Or at least this section.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in a way, like the research that they got out of it was more for the teachers' benefit than it was the students in a way. But then also like because then it goes to talk about like some students benefited and it's questionable like if tier intervention actually works. And I'm like, well, now I'm questioning everything, you know?
Well, I feel like that's the whole point of tier 2 intervention, like trying to give them extra help, and now it's kind of saying like it might help them.
Right.
Right.
Because
And then
it basically, go ahead.
no, you can go.
It basically said like, obviously, some students need that tier 2, but then some students might be placed who don't need that tier 2. And so they're getting a boost and therefore they outperform all of their class. So like, you have your students who are like base level and they're getting the normalcy of the class. And then you have your students who need tier 2. And so that way they can meet those class requirements and get to where they need to be. And then you have those students who are borderline who might be placed into tier 2 and then they're getting that help. So they're getting that help, but then they're also like overachieving in their classrooms. So I feel like that's kind of what the article had mentioned. Like you have some outperformers who may not need to be placed
Right.
based on.
I feel like at that point, if you can give everyone like if they're outperforming, that's not necessarily like a bad thing. Like if you can give that to all the kids,
Right.
like
Right. I mean,
just
obviously if you could
picking.
work in small groups for all of your classes, you would like if you could take it part from each day, you'd work in small groups. But, obviously, I feel like you would notice after a while, like, okay, the students like really like, okay, you're focusing on your tier 2 group and like the students here, they all kind of match. And then you have your other student who's like overly achieving, like, okay, this student probably doesn't need tier 2 invention. Let's place them,
Back in their
back
class.
in the routine.
And you don't necessarily want to keep a kid in tier 2 for, indefinitely. And
Right.
Right.
like you want to keep cycling in kids who are
Right, especially if it's taking away from their class time, because the goal of tier 2 is to get students to where they need to be to get back into whole group into
Yeah.
tier 3. So
Mhm.
or tier 1.
We know what you meant.
Yeah.
The
I'm
goal
like,
is to
wait,
put them in
that's
tier
not
3.
right.
Like, oh, okay.
Okay, the next question, give and describe one example of research found on assessing phonemic awareness and basic word recognition skills to inform instructions on pages 32 to 33. I also felt the same way with this part of this, or this section of the chapter, because it was talking about how like the grouping size was not statistically different from the 1-to-1 and small groups of 2 and 3 to 4 to 5 students. However, teachers should interpret this finding with caution because there were not enough interventions provided in groups larger than 5 to allow a comparison. Where like tier 2 isn't a big group, or like, I don't know. So it was just like, why would they need to have groups bigger than 3 to 4 to 5 students? Because that's not what we're focusing on.
Mm-hmm. As far as assessments, I know it obviously talked about like benchmark assessments, which we all learned in like 320. You know, it just gives you a foundational understanding of where your students are at and then in which tier you can place them.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense? Or is it even remotely close to what you were saying?
Mm-hmm.
You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
Sorry.
you're good.
Like trying to
And then-
type and losing what
No,
you were.
you're good. I would also include what Alexis was saying about the benchmarks and assessments too, because that's a big one in this. I feel like that's all page 33.
Yeah, it talks about the cubed intervention or cube screening too.
And then there was like diagnostic assessments that address foundational reading skills that can help instructional decision making.
What was the testing that you had said, Alexis?
It's the cubed screening and progress monitoring. I thought it was kind of cool because like, you know, you talk about benchmark and that's usually pre-K through like you can kind of do it up to 5th grade, but this one focused on specifically pre-K through 3rd grade and just like getting over those, you know, the basic of decoding, phonemic awareness, word identification, and fluency, you know, just finalizing the foundation of phonemic awareness.
That makes sense. Or is that similar?
Yeah.
Also really clear that I don't look at the screen while I'm typing. I looked up and I said monitoring for closed on decoding. I was like, autocorrect maybe, or sorry.
The last question is give and describe one example of research found on instruction and intervention activities 4, accelerating phonemic awareness and basic word recognition skills. And I think that was page 34.
I noticed, I remember it mentioning like teachers giving examples and recommendations of tying in like the language, kind of like how we talked about in the beginning. As far as like word recognition, like how students can like tie it back to real life. And then the breakdown. So like the labels, the I remember like grocery stores was an example. Having like words of the day or like sounds of the day or rhymes of the day or something like that. But also like pairing the knowledge to go with it. So like certain words having background knowledge and stuff like that.
I also really love the idea of sound bingo. Like that was so cute. I think it's just a cute idea for littler kids, younger kids, I guess. Don't think of different ways to play bingo very often. And then you can go into part 3 if we're ready for that. And that one's practicing the lesson. Did we have an idea of, do we all want to do the whole thing, or before I just go?
I think we could split it up into like half again.
Mm-hmm.
Just because with timing and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like if because there's 4 of us, we could run through the lesson twice.
Mm-mm.
And then, one person do one half, the second half, and then same thing for the second group.
1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So if we each wanted to do each part, is that what you're saying, Alexis?
Yeah, we could do it that way.
Oh, I guess really the I do is not really a big part. Oh wait, it's bigger. Yes, it is. Never mind. Okay, I can go first in doing the I do if we want the review. Okay, so hello, second graders. In the past, we've been learning about how phonemes are the smallest unit of sound in any word. And we're going to review how to identify specific phonemes in one-syllable words. So when I say sat, the individual phonemes or sounds in the word are at. I can hold up one finger for each phoneme, so I know how to segment the different sounds. I'm going to say the word again, but this time watch how I put up one finger for each sound, and then when I'm done, I'm gonna make a fist and say the word as a whole. So shoot, let me do it with this hand. Sat. So say sat again, this time easy. Oh, that's not what I'm supposed to say. So can you guys do it with me this time? Sat. Good job. Okay, and then we're gonna do the word mad. All together, ready? Mad. Good job. All right, and the next word is get. Get. We got 2 more words. The next word is going to be sun. Sun.
Sun.
The last word is dog. Ready? Do it with me. D,
The
g, dog.
dog.
Did you see how I used one finger for each sound and we made a fist to say the whole word? We also learned that sometimes more than one letter can work together to make a new sound. This was called a digraph. Even though digraphs contain more than one letter, they're still phonemes, and we can say them out the same way. The letters S and H make the sh sound. We bring this sound out by bringing the corner of our lips together and slightly raising our tongue just a little bit. So for the word shut, I would segment it like this. Sh, t. See, the S and the H were only one finger. That's all. One. Whoever wants to go next with the we do.
Can do the using the hand cues taught before. The teacher, oh wait, that's not her talking. Sorry. Now let's try it. When I put up a finger, you do the same and say the phoneme. Wait, I'm so confused. I'm sorry. Is it the same thing or is it for,
I think
it's for the
same.
word wash.
or is it
yeah.
symbols?
I think it's the same thing, like wash.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so for the word wash, it would be wash. Wash.
Wash.
Now let's try it. When I put up a finger, you do the same and say the phoneme used in the words shot, fed, shine. Yeah. Sorry. So
Shine.
shot,
Shine.
ed,
Ed,
The
fed,
bed.
shine,
shine.
shine. Sorry, shine. We can also use what are called Alcona boxes or sound boxes to see how the words are segmented when we write them down. If you wanted to see the phonemes in the word, I would write the word so that each sound has its own box. Let's practice together by writing the word nap in the boxes. I don't have a whiteboard. I don't know if you guys do.
Have mine we can use if we want, or yeah, I don't know what we want to do.
I can
We
grab
can always use the blending board too.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the online one. Did she link that? I think she did.
I think
She did.
I don't see. Oh yeah, she did.
Oh wait, maybe she did.
It's up at the very top. I can try to share my screen. Most of the time it doesn't let me though.
Is it not letting you?
Mm-mm. There's something wrong with my laptop where it won't let me like screen record or do anything.
That's weird. I can just hold up mine if you want. I'll show you what
Sorry.
it look like, I guess. If you want to go.
So yeah, pretty much you'd write NAP app in your boxes. We can do the same for words with a sh sound too. Let's write the word shin in the box together. Now we can see the sh goes in one box because it represents one sound, just like the I and in. And then repeat with the words lush, wish, and shit. But I'm not gonna have you do all those.
What's the Alconin box clear sleeve?
Is that like a binder, like a clear
It's
sleeve?
Oh, maybe.
Like how
I know
Alexis
you can get
did
those like
it.
laminated like papers or like a clear sleeve like that you put in a
Oh.
binder.
Oh
and you
yeah.
can use
Oh, and it
that.
has the already boxes for it. Oh, that makes sense. What's the So then is the Elkonin boxes worksheet the same as that, or is that like a different thing that's linked at the top?
I think
So the
that's
Elkonin boxes worksheet is just like having like, so I think you would come up with a list of words, or you can use the same
Okay.
words and then have like the students work putting them in an Elkonin box to break up the sounds and then blending them into a full sound to a full word. And then after they would complete that worksheet, you would then have them, like I was gonna do the connected text once we moved past that. Basically explaining like what the text is, and then you have them circle um the words that you've gone over with the digraph, and then come
Mhm.
back together to conclude like the words that we found.
Oh, okay. So then now we're on the you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're all just each doing one box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I can do the you do. So then handing out the Elkonin box worksheet, segment and write each word properly in the Elkonin boxes so that each box contains one phoneme. And then
So we can just do it with the words we used above if you want.
okay.
If everybody wants to write those 4 words, I guess, in an outline box.
let me grab some paper.
So writing the word lush. And it would be let me see. Sh. Nice. Good job. Then wish. Which would be w I. And the last one, ship. I. Good job. Well done.
All right, now that you've been able to practice it on your own and gain that knowledge, we're going to do a reading. Our reading today is going to be a wish. I want you to read through that book and I want you to circle any letters that contain our SH digraph. We're going to take a few minutes to do that, and after that, we can come back together as a class and identify our SH words. So I'm thinking how we can do this over Zoom is just if you want to just like bullet point the SH words you see in the reading, you can do that. The reading should be linked at the top of the module. All right, is everyone ready?
Yep.
All right, perfect. What words did you guys identify? Kenzie, do you want to list two you saw?
Yeah. Hush and wish.
Good job. Kate, what about you? What are two words you saw?
Sash and lush.
Good job. Ashley, what about you? What are two words you saw?
Posh and ship.
Good job, you guys. You guys all as a group identified all of the SH digraphs within our reading today. And now hopefully you can see and identify more SH words as you go out in your world today. The end.
Good job.
She said the end.
The end.
Okay. So do we each want to do a different part, or do we think we're good with that, and move on?
I feel pretty confident in it just because me personally, just because, I feel like I took a different part than, I did last week or in comparison to like other weeks, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And we gave Mackenzie a break from her doing the whole. She was like, let's figure out the parts before I do it this
Right.
time.
Yeah. And I just don't want to like repeat you guys. Like, I don't know. Like after somebody does it, I feel like it's just like I'm trying to think of a different way to do it, and there's no like different way, I guess.
Right.
That's all written out. It's literally like word for word. And
Yeah.
we're like, all right, if we all go through this, we're gonna be just wasting time.
Yeah. Okay, so the next part is sharing the case study. Each of you discuss your case study work for this week. You might choose to share your screen, or if each of you have access to it, blah, blah, blah. Share thoughts, questions, other feedback, and you'll get final grades tomorrow.
What did you guys what did you guys do like your intervention lesson? Like what was the focus of your guys's?
Mine was CK words, digraph CK.
So does it have to be like doing like those certain words or like phonemes based? Did it have to be like learning the phonemes or like of certain words, if that makes sense?
So it said do something you've
Because
already.
like I did mine on comprehension.
I almost did mine off comprehension, but then I didn't know because it's kind of the same
Okay, so
thing
like
as something you've already like looked at.
Which and I
Mhm.
think you could include comprehension into any lesson. Like you could work on digraphs and then just have them like do comprehension either on the lesson or if you do like you're
yeah.
connected to the text reading, obviously you're finalizing your digraph, but then you could have them, okay, now write or talk to me about a short summary of what you learned from that reading or something like that. That way they're still
Mhm.
working on comprehension as well.
Okay. Because yeah, I did mine on comprehension, but then I started like seeing like all the other intervention lesson plans that we've done have been like phonemes and like the sounds of words and stuff. So then I was like, wait, I don't know if I did mine correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I did mine on high frequency words, so not phonemes, but it also kind of turned into like a vocab lesson. And like I was trying to get it to not turn into a vocab lesson, but there was no.
Right, like I don't want to like do so many lesson plans into one. Like, oh, I'm like, oh, I could do this and then turn it into this and then do this. And I'm like, that's right. I have to like, and I think that's another thing I struggle with is like keeping it into a short time frame because like we're working with kids, they're going to be antsy and whatnot. So I think that's another thing for me is working in a small and short time frame with, giving extensive information.
Mm-hmm. Like I feel like sometimes I'm like 2 to 3 minutes. Like my whole instruction could be 2 to 3 minutes.
Right.
The same thing. Like my review was 5 minutes and the new concept was the same amount. Like
Yeah. Shout out to Alexis because I used your where was it? I think it was like, what did I say? When I say the word duck, go or something like that. I
I
don't remember.
think it
know
just gives something like for students to look forward to and like, oh my gosh, it's a silly word and they're more likely to pay attention and you can like change it either every day or every week within your classroom and it gives like, I don't know, students to like just something and it can be like the smallest thing to switch up to, like just within your classroom. I feel like so.
I
Yeah.
was talking about that with like my group the one day that we weren't in like these groups. And someone was like, okay, I'm gonna start out with like hello vocab victors. And I was like, do you guys actually use those? Like, because I can't get myself, like, I think it's great when people do, but like I can't get myself to be like, hey, vocab victors. And I was like, I've worked with Alexis before, and she's like, hey, mathematicians, and like you're like hyping them up, and I'm like, hey, children, like I don't have that confidence to be like vocab victors, but like you come up with them so fast. I'm trying to think of the one you used in our math class, but it was something like that.
I use scholars a lot. I don't
I
know.
think it's a lot easier too when you're towards kids. Like when I'm calling you guys like today, hey, second graders, like that's so weird.
That's always the worst thing about like going through these. I'll be like, okay, we're gonna work through the word duck, and like I can see Ashley's like, like yeah, but
Yeah. I don't know what else we need to do.
What are you guys, I mean, obviously it's dependent on like what your focus is, but what are some ideas that you guys are using for your whole class? Like what the rest of the class is doing?
So for mine, so we're working on CK, like I said, diagraph CK. I said the students will be working independently on a find and highlight the CK words worksheet. So they're asked to highlight all the CK words in the word bank, that's supposed to be bank, and then search for them and the provided word search below. And then once they're finished with this activity, they can turn in their paper into the completed worksheet bin. And then they will be asked to write a short story using 2 of the words that they found in their word search.
Okay.
I have the rest of my class making flashcard with their vocabulary words and like quizzing each other because I have the high frequency words.
Perfect. All right, yeah, I was just looking for some like other ideas because I feel like that, like I said, it's always kind of a thing I question is like, what's the rest of class working on? Because I don't want them like either just silently reading or like, doing something too small that they're not being challenged or something like that. But
So next week, are we? No, wait. Yeah, for week
we're
12,
whole
I think.
class on Wednesday, and then our last small group is on Monday, and that's our final class and technically like our final exam. We don't have, she said we don't have a final exam for this class.
So for Wednesday then, because like I'm looking at like week 12's work and it says during week 12, because it's the same thing, it's on this. During week 12, you'll actually implement this lesson plan with a small group of students during our class session. So on Wednesday, I'll be teaching this to a small group.
I think to us.
Yeah,
Okay,
to
because
us, or
I'm
like she'll put
worried
us in
like
like a group in class.
mine has like linking cubes in it. So like my warm up is blending and segmenting with linking cubes, which is those like things you like put together. And I know nobody will have linking cubes.
We can just be like, take off the pen and be like, okay,
Okay.
add. Like, we'll
Or
figure it.
like just have 3 objects, I guess. Like because
Mhm.
it just said like first we're gonna practice the sound and then blend them together. I'm going to point to the word you want to say. I want you to say each sound out loud together, and for every sound you hear, you'll place a cube out in front of you. So that's really all they're doing. So like you could just place, I guess, 2 items in front of you.
Yeah.
Or 3 items.
Yeah. Or just even pretending to like,
Mm-hmm.
With the like teaching it in front, I know this week we're supposed to revise on like the Tuesday before. Do we just have to revise like that lesson plan, or are we revising the whole case study?
Oh, I don't know.
I think we're just revising like now that we talk with our groups and like I think gotten ideas or feedback if we got feedback, and just revising our lesson plan.
Okay.
Because that's what we're going to be presenting on Wednesday.
Okay, because I have like a lot of like notes from her from like before. I didn't know if I had to fix all of that too, because I know at the end we submit like a PDF of the final draft.
Right.
All right.
All right, I think that's it.
I'm all good if you guys.
Sounds good. Yeah. See you guys Wednesday.
All right.
How do I stop recording this? I always forget. Oh, there's a